Okay, so this is Megilah Exploration because we're in that season. It's Rosh Chodesh, Adar Sheni. So background information here. So I used to teach Sefer Daniel, and I used to teach Megillah Esther in high school. And there is one, I mean, there's several, but there's one midrash that links the two books in a very, very major way. And by major, I mean, like, someone messaged me before this year and they said, is the link between the two books the midrash that that Hasach, the guy who was running back and forth. Oh, good, we got Yosef also. They asked me if the link was the midrash that says that Hasach, I think, what is Daniel. Okay, and I said no, like that is a midrash, but this is the bigger midrash. Okay, so what I would like to do is go through the midrash, and then in order to really appreciate the midrash, we have to go through some facts in Sefer Daniel and skim through one chapter and then read through another chapter. And so I kind of want to have today be like the setup day in terms of asking all the questions, going through all the facts, and then that way it'll give us time to think about it for for next week, and then we could hopefully have answers next week. Okay, so let us begin. Yeah, Yosef.
Just which farm should I pull out? Like what will I
if
need?
you want a Gemara Megilah, you can get that. And if you want a Sefer Daniel, it might actually be better if you have an Hebrew English Daniel, then it'd be good, because what happens, you know what's special about the way Daniel's written that's different than all the other books of Nach?
Is it super poetic or?
No, there's it is, say again?
It's in Aramaic.
Yeah, so Daniel switches to Aramaic. Really? And it's a weird Aramaic. It's not like Gemara Aramaic, and it's not quite like Targum Aramaic either. So that's really, I mean, it's more like Targum Aramaic than Gemara Aramaic. So the English might be better for you, or for me. And then if you want to get a Mishnah Torah, you can, because we always use the Mishnah Torah. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is maybe I'll type out the translation as I translate it. Okay, so I'll actually, you know what? I'm going to pause and wait till you get your stuff, because.
Oh my God! Wait.
If you look for a pasuk in Eicha, that's the end of the midrash, and on the side, and then the first word on the of the midrash is Shalu Talmidav es Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Oh, good, we got till the end too. Good.
Wait, so where on the daf is it? It's
I'm not sure where on the daf it is. I've just been using all Torah. All right, Michael, you didn't miss any content yet. We just were talking about what we're going to do, what the game plan is, and then we were giving Sfarim and then talking about methodology and midrash. Yeah. You find it?
Just chat.
Yeah. Yosef, you there? You found the place or not yet?
What's the first one?
I don't know what the first word is, but if you look for the pasuk in Eicha, that's the end of the midrash.
The pasuk in Eicha is the end of the midrash.
Yeah. I'll pause this again. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start translating here. Okay. So Shalu Talmidav es Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Okay, so Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's students asked him, okay, okay, so why were the quote enemies of Israel, okay, and you know what enemies of Israel is code for?
Romans?
Nope.
Oh.
Good guess though. The Jews. Okay, so there's a the Hebrew style of euphemism, or the Chazal style of euphemism, is you say the opposite. So like, a blind person is called Sagi Nahar, which means he has lots of light, but really he has no light. Or like the Psachim says, why am I blanking on the first? What's the opening parak of Psachim called? I'm blanking on this. It has euphemism. What's the first parak of Psachim? Hold on. This is going to bother me. First Masechta of Psachim, or sorry, first parak of Psachim. Why are things taking so long here? Psachim. Yeah. Or Larbazar. Okay, yeah. Or Larbazar on the light of the 14th, but really light is a metaphor for, or as a euphemism for night. Okay, fine. So we don't want to talk about the Jews being destroyed, so we call them the enemies of the Jews, because we like talking about them being destroyed. So this means, why were the Jews of that generation liable for annihilation? Okay, fair question. Okay, Oh, actually, you know what? Maybe let's challenge it. Okay. Oh no. Okay, whatever. We'll let the questions come organically. All right. Amar lahem. So he said to them, okay, and this is the best answer that any Rebbe can ever give. Imrotem, you say. Okay, you tell me. All right. So Amrulo, they said to him, Mipnei shenehnu misudaso shel oso rasha, because they enjoyed the meal. Okay, I guess festive meal is probably a better translation of Suda in this context. The festive meal of that Russia. Okay, namely Achashverosh, right? Achashverosh. Okay, so then Shum Bar Yochai says, so hold on a second. So he responded, even though it doesn't say he responded, Im Kain, if so, Shebashushan Yehargu, Shebachol Halam Kulo, Al Yehargu. Okay, only the Jews in Shushan should have been killed, not in the whole world, right? Because Achashverosh only made the Su'uda for all the people in Shushan, right? There were the two Su'udas, right? There's 180 days of partying, but he only made those, and that was through all of his kingdom, but he only made those for like the fancy nobles. But then in Shushan, he made it for everybody, right? So if that was the chait, then only the Jews in Shushan should have been liable for destruction. Okay, so then already, yeah, Oren.
We're talking about Korban by Cheney, right?
No, we're talking about the Megilah Esther story.
Oh, like why did Haman?
Yeah, sorry, I should clarify. Yeah, sorry.
What's the fate we're trying to clarify about?
Yeah, sorry. I should have said that. Yeah. So the question here is, why were the Jews of that generation, meaning, i.e., in the time of Mordechai and Esther, liable for destruction at the hands of Haman? Okay, that's the question that they're asking. Okay. Yeah, sorry, that was an important clarification. Okay, so let's run it through again, right? So so they said because they enjoyed the meal of Achashverosh, he responded, if so, only the Jews in Shushan should have been killed, not the whole world. So then they give up. Okay. So they said to him, Emorata, you say. Okay. And it's the best answer. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So then he said to them, because they bowed down to the statue. Okay, so what statue are they talking about? Now, if you were raised with the midrashic account of the Purim story, what image or statue would you think that it was talking about that they bowed down to?
The one of Haman?
Which one of Haman?
The one where Haman, where Mordechai didn't bow down, the one on his neck.
On his neck. Okay, yeah, right, correct, right. So you would think that it's talking about the bowing down to Haman, and there's machlokus about what was wrong with bowing down to Haman. So you have one shita that says Haman made himself into an avodah zarah, and then the other one was that he was wearing an avodah zarah, right? So you might think that that's what he's talking about, but no. Rashi clarifies, Shishtachavu litzelem b'yemei Nevuchadnetzar. Okay, so they bowed down to the statue, and Rashi says in the days of Nevuchadnetzar. Okay, now that is going to be the focus of what we talk about. So I'm not going to even clarify the facts here. We're going to finish the midrash, and then we'll go back and fill in the facts. Okay, so then they asked him a question. Okay, they said to him, "V'chi maso panim yesh b'davar?" Was there favoritism in the matter? Which I did not know what that meant when I read it. So Rashi thankfully helps us. Okay, was there favoritism in the matter? So Rashi clarifies, hold on. Was there favoritism in the matter? And Rashi interprets that to mean, how were they, i.e. the Jews at the time of the Purim story, or how did they merit a miracle? Zachu l'nes. Okay, in other words, now they're flipping the question on its head, is that if the Jews were liable for destruction for bowing down to a statue in the days of Nevuchadnezzar, why did they get saved? Okay, legitimate question. Okay, so so the answer is an extremely bizarre one. Okay, he said to them, lo asu ella lifnim. They only acted lifnim, outwardly. Okay, which Rashi says miyira. Okay, outwardly, out of fear. Okay, meaning that when they bow down to the statue, they weren't doing it to worship it. They were doing it out of fear. Okay, they only acted outwardly. Af HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo asa iman ela lifnim. So too, HaKadosh Baruch Hu only acted outwardly. Okay, what do you think that means just in terms of pshat?
That God only wanted to give the appearance of imminent destruction without actually
Exactly right. So it's the old psych, right? So he only acted outwardly, meaning he acted as if he was going to destroy them, but but not really. Okay, but he didn't do it. And then let's just finish the midrash. Hold on a second here. And then he quotes a pasuk, Hainu v'hainu dichsiv, as it is written in Eicha, Kilo inami libo, for he does not afflict literally from his heart. Okay, which is like I mean that might be a matter of us analyzing. Okay, but let's say like milibo is like maliciously, maybe is a good way to put it for now. And that's from Eicha 3:33. Yeah, Oren.
Okay, so I have two questions and they're kind of similar.
Okay.
This Gemara seems to have like two weird free will problems. One is that
Okay.
if you're asking wait, I'm sorry, can you go back to the Gemara for a second?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, give me a sec. Well, okay, one is that if you're going to say that there was never actually any real possibility of being destroyed because God had no intention of it, then like I guess it's not really a free will problem, but then like what even is this holiday? Like why are we who cares?
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
happen.
Okay, good. All right.
But then also
You want actually I'm gonna write that. I want to write down our questions. So
Okay.
So questions / problems. Okay, so if God was never actually going to destroy us, so then what is this whole holiday about? Right? Aren't we commemorating a salvation, like a real salvation, not a fake salvation? Yeah. Okay, good. And the second question?
My other question was, sorry, this is the one that has to do with free will, is that if you're asking why did Haman do this, and then you give an answer that's like about the sins of the Jews, then doesn't that negate Haman's free will?
No. Good question, but no. I'll answer it in the short version. But obviously it's a larger topic. Whenever you talk about free will, it's a larger topic, right? But many times you'll see Chazal talking about, or even in the Psukim, talking about God using someone as an agent of destruction. So like let's say with the destruction of the first base Mikdash, then God, it says God sent Nevuchadnetzar. Now what does that mean? So it's true that God can take away someone's free will, like he did in the case of Paro, but that's not what it means here. What it means is that a plain shot is that Klal Yisrael is under protection. Okay, and there are lots and lots of forces that are threatening to destroy us because a lot of people hate us. So ordinarily, when we merit it, then God protects us from them. But if we lose that merit and become liable, so then God unleashes the destructive forces. And when you're dealing with people who are like, let's say like Nevuchadnezzar, who was, becoming the king of kings, and like conquering all these kingdoms, it's only a matter of time that if he sees that this Jewish nation is like vulnerable, then he'll destroy them, you know? So the psukim say it as though God sent Nebuchadnezzar. Really what it means is that he basically like left the Jews to be destroyed, and Nebuchadnezzar is going to be the agent of destruction. And the way that the Rambam would answer the free will part is he would say that, like, you know, if Nebuchadnezzar had wanted, he could have chosen not to do it. And there's a phrase that Chazal use, Harbe Shluchim Lamakom. God has many agents, meaning that there are, you know, if the Jews deserve destruction, then it can come about in many ways.
So does that mean that, like, if the Jews hadn't done this sin, then Haman still would have existed and he still would have been, you know, rabidly anti-Semitic or whatever, but he wouldn't have been able to.
Correct. That's how I understand it. Yeah. Like there's a lot of anti-Semites and a lot of people who are upset at personal insults, you know, but not all of them succeed in like getting a genocidal setup, you know? Yeah. Okay. So I'm not listening to that question just because I do think that that's more of a question on free will in general, even though it's a good question. Okay. So what are the questions on this midrash here that we need to answer or address?
What's like what are they asking, like why do they merit having salvation? Like, wouldn't you just say it's tshuva?
Okay,
like,
so it's a good question. I'm gonna answer it and then convert it back into a question. Okay, so the answer of why would they ask, like, why would they ask the question, isn't it just tshuva? So this is something that's always bothered me. Oh, sorry, what am I saying? Hold on, it's not bothered me. Okay, when you say tshuva, what do you mean? Are you sort of talking about something specifically?
Like by Tinus Esther, I thought that they had done tshuva, right?
Okay, yeah. All right, so right. Okay, yeah, right. So that's a good question then. Okay, sorry, I for some reason I got mixed up in a more complicated version of the question. Okay, so so the question is like this: is why did the students ask about the merit which saved the Jews? Wasn't there merit from the tshuva they did during the 3 days of fasting for Esther? Okay, so that's a good question. Now, if you want to be nitpicky, you can say the psukim never actually say that they did tshuva, and it wasn't in relation to a chait. It was really more tshuva in terms of beseeching God to help make Esther succeed, you know. But you know, there's definitely room for saying that it, because we don't know what the instructions were to the people. Esther just says, get them to do to fast and daven for me. So it's entirely reasonable that they did get them to do tshuva.
Right.
Okay. What else?
What, there's like this weird gesturing towards some story that it supposes that I know of, but I don't know.
Yes. Okay. Good. So that's where we're gonna. That's where we're gonna spend the bulk of the night investigating, and we'll convert that into a question, which is, what was the chait of bowing down to the statue in the days of Nevuchadnezzar? I always forget how to spell Nebuchadnezzar. I think it's like that. Yeah. Okay. Like what was that? Okay. And furthermore, and I'm going to actually say this now, even though we're going to go into the story in a little while, because this is like, I think, part of the questions here. Anyone know when Nebuchadnezzar was in relation to the Purim story?
Isn't it a machloket?
Is it? Well, no, it's not. It's just it's Daniel. I don't know. Someone screwed up the calculation of what 70 years was, I think.
Right.
Was it Daniel? Did Daniel?
So it's what do you call it? In Sefer Daniel, then Belshazzar is the king who is described as screwing up the calculation. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless there's something I don't know about that says that somehow it was Daniel's fault, but in the Psukim and Daniel, it's that. So the answer, and this is something that, like, chronology is always very hard, because even with the 70 years, like, we knew that the Galus would be 70 years, but it's unclear from when to when. Okay, and that's part of like why it was hard to calculate. So I'm looking here. I'm just relying on, I don't know if you've seen this series. They call it the Mageed series. Okay, they have a bunch of books on Tanakh, and it's like a combination. It's like academic works that were written by from people, so it like uses our sources and academic sources. So he has this like handy dandy timeline here. And he says, so, okay, the destruction of the base of Mikdash was in 586 BCE, okay? And according to him, and again, I'm just going according to him here, the story of Purim was in 483 BCE, okay? So we're talking like a good 100 years, okay, later, right? So the question that I would pose based on that is, if that was the hate, okay, aren't all those Jews dead, okay? That incident, which we'll read about in a little while, happened over 100 years before the Purim story. Okay, why should all of world Jewry be liable for destruction because of something that happened 100 years prior? Yeah. Okay, what else?
Were they all dead? I thought that this could be totally incorrect, but I was under the impression that Purim was like 60 to 70 years after the Babylonian exile, after the Babylonian exile started.
Okay, so it's possible that they weren't all dead. I mean, again, this is part of the chronology thing. So let's just say weren't most of those Jews dead? Certainly most of them were dead, because you are right. There were people who saw the second base of Mikdash who had seen the first base of Mikdash, but still, like, it's hard to say that it was destroyed on account of those. Yeah, Joseph?
What is this pasuk? How does it connect to what we're saying?
In Eicha, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That I also need clarification on that. Okay. What is the point of what is that pasuk teaching us? Is that pasuk in Eicha teaching us? Yeah. Why is it necessary? Yeah, it's unclear what it's saying and why it's there. Okay. Another question you could ask, which I don't know if we're going to take up, but because I don't know if it's necessary. The other question is what was the Havamina, or what was the basis of the student's answer, right? I'll just put in terms of a Havamina here. Okay, so what was the student's Hava Amina? Okay, why did they think that the Chet was deriving enjoyment from the Su'uda of Achashverosh? Okay, now you could just say that like it was a bad answer, but again, these are Talmidei Chachamim of Shimon Bar Yochai, so presumably they had some sort of legitimate Havamina despite the answer. Yeah, Oren?
So two things. So one, kind of a weaker question, but still, just epistemologically, how does Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai know this thing about God? Like, how does he get that? Where does he get that from?
Okay, so let us ask that question here. Let's put it here. How does Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai know this? Okay, now
isn't that the pasuk?
No.
No.
The pasuk from Eicha?
Yeah, isn't that what the pasuk?
No, the pasuk from Eicha is explaining the, well, we don't really know what the pasuk in Eicha is explaining, but it's definitely not talking about identifying the, Oren's question is how, let me make sure I'm understanding right. Oren's question is, how does Shimon Bar Yochai know that this was the hate that made the Jews liable for destruction? So the pasuk in Eicha is only addressing this last part about was there favoritism, and yeah. So Oren's question is, how did he know? Now, the reason why I'm going to italicize this question here and treat it, actually, I'm not going to italicize it, I'm going to indent it, is because like the way I would answer, anyone have an answer to that question? So the answer that I would say, and I'm just going to type this here, is he doesn't. Okay, it's a theory, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because at this point there was no, he didn't have nevuah, right? Like we don't have anyone explicitly saying this, and this is a very common thing that Chazal will like the first base of Mikdash that was destroyed, you had Nevi'im prophesying about it, so you can see what the Nevi'im say and you can know why it was destroyed. The second one, all you have is Chazal theorizing because we don't know for sure. So that's why they say it was sinas chinam or other things like that. But it's a theory, and why does he think this theory? That is what we're going to be investigating. Like presumably, if we learn the story correctly, then we'll see, some connection. Okay, yeah, Oren.
Yeah, I also wanted to ask a question on your first question.
Yeah.
Is methodologically, why should we assume that there is a good Hava Mina? Like, I feel like this is a story. It's not like normal Gemara. So
yeah. So I would say that even more so, if there things are only included in midrashim if they are important for the ideas, right? So like I'm sure lots and lots of false answers were given to good questions in the base midrash throughout history and in dialogues, and not all of them were written down in the midrash. So the fact that this is part of the midrash, and the fact that he said to them in the actual thing, you tell me, means that he thought that it was reasonable that they could come up with an answer, So I'm making an assumption here that there is a relationship between their misfired answer and like the correct answer somehow. What that is, I don't know. But that's a good methodology question, though. Yeah, Yosef, did you have another question? No, okay. All right. So I think that about covers it. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try to get the facts about the story of Nevuchadnezzar, and it's going to be tempting to go into this in depth. Maybe it's tempting for me because the story is so like flashy and interesting. But we're going to try to keep our eye on the ball, and I have to leave exactly like as close to 8 as possible. Okay, so I can't go over time. Yeah, Yosef.
One more question is just why wouldn't you say that there had to be some tshuva that occurred at some point, right? Maybe not exactly Megilah Esther, but just why is the answer that the punishment itself had like some like it was like a lower level punishment, right?
Okay, yeah. So let me actually list that as a separate question here, which is that our default assumption would be that if the Jews were saved, then some teshuva would have taken place. But that's not what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai assumes. Apparently, he would prefer to say that the punishment was somehow like not real than to say that it was real and the Jews did teshuva. What led him to assume this? I'm sure I could have asked that in a shorter way, but is that your question though?
Yeah, that is.
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so let us switch gears to Daniel, and now I have to make a game time decision. Okay, so I'm gonna skip some of the exciting part of the story. I'll just paraphrase it, okay, and then go to the facts here. Okay, so basically what happens? No, it's too exciting to skip over. So we'll read. Okay, so we're gonna do Daniel chapter 2. Okay, and I'm using a PowerPoint because I had made a PowerPoint for my high school thing for most of it, so that's why we're using this. Okay, so it starts off in Hebrew. I'm just gonna read it in English here because we're gonna switch to English anyway. And in the second year of the reign of Nevuchadnezzar, so this is very, very early on, like right fresh off of the smoldering Beis Hamikdash ruins. Nevuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, and his spirit was agitated, and his sleep was disturbed. You're going to get echoes of something, by the way, in this whole story, okay? And the king said to call the psychologists, the doctors, the magicians, the astrologers to tell the king his dreams, and they came and stood before the king. I think one of the Mefarshim says, you see from here that Nevuchadnezzar was wise, because he knew that dreams can come from psychological causes, from medical causes, from supernatural causes, and from astrological causes. So like he was covering all of his bases. Okay, consult all the experts. So all these experts come and stand before the king. And the king said to them, I dreamed a dream, and my spirit was agitated to know the dream. Okay, who's this reminding you of, by the way? It should be obvious.
Paro, no?
Paro, okay, right, yeah. And the astrologer spoke to the king in Aramaic. Now, at this point, the book switches into Aramaic, which it remains in until, I think, chapter like 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there. Yeah, Oren?
I was thinking Achashverosh with his dream.
Right, but Achashverosh does not have a dream that's stated in the Psukim. It just his sleep was, he couldn't sleep, or sleep was agitated, but it doesn't actually have a dream.
Huh.
Yeah. Also, you're going to see the parallels are clear. Okay, so here's what they said in Aramaic. So these are the experts. Long live the king. Relate your dream to your servants, and we will tell you its meaning. Okay, so this is their job, right? Now you gotta put yourself in their shoes here, because if you've ever had an experience with your boss that like makes you feel helpless, I think like this will evoke the feelings. Okay. The thing has slipped my mind, the king answered the astrologers. If you don't tell me the dream and its meaning, you will be torn limb from limb and your homes will be turned into ruins. Okay, so he not only does he want them to interpret the dream, he wants them to tell him what he dreamed and then interpret it. Okay, but if you do indeed tell me the dream and its meaning, I will reward you with gifts and presents and great honor. Just tell me the dream and its meaning. Okay. So that's all he's asking. Okay, so awkward, right? So once again, they said, let the king relate the dream to his servants and we will tell its meaning, right? Like they're like, we must have misheard him, you know, like just, you know, you tell us the dream. I can tell you're just buying time, the king replied, because you see that it slipped my mind. Now, by the way, I always love it when I find that modern day idioms were really like actually very ancient. And so I just have to like quote this here, just because I don't know, it tickles me a little bit here. That the phrase that they use is 2:8 in Aramaic. Idana antun zabnin. You're buying time, you know. So buying time is a very, very, very old idiom. Okay. So in other words, he thinks that they're stalling, right? Just to like get more time. He says, so if you don't tell me the dream, you'll all share the same fate. You're conspiring to tell me something false and deceitful, hoping to stall until circumstances change. So tell me the dream, and then I'll know that you're capable of telling me its meaning. So he's saying, I'll cut you a deal. Don't worry about interpreting it. Just tell me what I dreamed. Okay. Which is like, they probably want the other way around. All right, so no one on earth can tell the king what he wants to know, the astrologers answered him, which is why no great king or sovereign has ever requested such a thing of any psychologist, doctor, or astrologer. So there, it's a little chutzpah, but like you kind of sympathize with them. Like he's saying like it's impossible. The king's request is too difficult. There is no one who can tell it to the king except the angels whose place is not among mortals. Okay, now check out what Nevuchadnezzar does. And by the way, this is a good thing. When you learn Sefer Daniel, you realize Nevuchadnezzar is this very interesting guy. Sometimes he appears very wise and sometimes very not wise. So here's an example of the latter. The response filled the king with anger and great rage, and he ordered that all the wise men of Babel be put to death. Okay, kill all of them, not just like these guys in front of him, just all the chachamim. Okay. Meanwhile, Daniel and his friends, now a backstory which we're not going through, is Daniel and his buddies Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They made it through this regimen and got chosen to be like very close advisors to the king. Okay, so word reaches them. Okay, and they are wise men, so they are now like in danger. So then Daniel strategically approached Arioch. Okay, so this part I'm going to skip through. Okay, so basically like he pulls like a Yosef type thing and convinces the this executioner that he can interpret Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And so Arioch goes and says to the king, just like in the case of Yosef and Paro, I found among the exiles of Yehuda a man who can tell the king the meaning of the dream. The king addressed Daniel, who had been renamed Belshazzar, and named him. So Daniel and his buddies all got new names: Belshazzar, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which are all names of Babylonian deities. And so he asked him, can you really tell me my dream and its meaning? Daniel responded, wise men, doctors, and psychologists cannot explain to the king the mystery about which he has inquired. However, there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has chosen to inform Nebuchadnezzar of what is to be at the end of days. Your dream, your mind's vision while you lay on your bed was as follows. Then he starts again. O king, the thoughts that came to you while you lay on your bed are about the future. The one who reveals secrets has let you know what will happen. As for me, heaven has not revealed this mystery to me because my wisdom is greater than that of the other living creatures, but so that the king might know the dream's meaning and understand the meditations of your heart. Okay, so at this point, for some reason, my PowerPoint runs out. So I'm just going to switch to Torah's translation. So this is the dream, and this is important for our purposes. Okay, so the dream is as follows. Starting on pasuk 31. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This image here is a tselem. Okay, so this statue that we're talking about that's going to be built in the next chapter is in Nevuchadnezzar's dream. Okay, so this Tselem, this statue, which was mighty and whose brightness was surpassing, stood before thee, and the appearance thereof was terrible. Okay, terrible here in the sense of the old use of the word terrible, like terrifying. Okay, not like bad. As for that statue, its head was of fine gold, its breast and its arms of silver, its belly and thighs of brass, its legs of iron, and its feet part of iron and part of clay. Okay, so you got the image there. Gold head, silver shoulders and arms, belly and thighs of brass, legs of iron, and then feet part iron and part clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without human hands, which smote the image upon its feet that were of iron and clay and broke them to pieces. So basically, a stone gets hewn out of the quarry and then goes and then hits the feet and then breaks the feet to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken in pieces together and became like chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away so that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Okay, so not only did it smash the feet, but the whole statue came crumbling down and all the pieces came into a pile, and then the stone grows and it fills the entire earth. Okay, and if you look on YouTube or if you send me the link, I can send you really, really bad Christian video productions of the events with some like primitive CGI and they animate the whole thing. Okay, it makes it come alive. Okay, so this is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. So that's the entire dream. Now here's the interpretation. Thou, O King, King of Kings, unto whom the God of heaven hath given the kingdom, the power, and the strength, and the glory. And wherever so the king, the children of men, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the heaven dwell, hath he given them into thy hand, and hath made thee to rule over them. Thou art the head of gold. Okay, so head of gold equals Nevuchadnezzar in his reign. Okay, and after thee shall rise another kingdom inferior to thee, and a third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. So these different parts of the statue are different kingdoms. So you got the gold kingdom, which is Babel, silver kingdom, which he's not saying who it is, brass kingdom, which he's not saying who it is, and the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, because the fourth one, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and beateth down all things, and as iron that crushes all these, shall it break in pieces and crush. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, it shall be a divided kingdom, but there shall be in it of the firmness of the iron, for as much as thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay. So in other words, the fourth kingdom is going to be a kingdom of iron, but mixed in with clay. Okay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so part of the kingdom shall be strong and part thereof broken. And whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with the miry clay, they shall mingle themselves by the seed of men, but they shall not cleave to one another, even as iron doth not mingle with clay. So in other words, they're interspersed, the iron and the clay, but they're not actually going to mix, because you can't mix iron and clay. And in the days of those kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, nor shall the kingdom be left to another people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, but it shall stand forever. That is who, by the way? Who's the stone kingdom represent?
Edom?
Nope. The one that will last forever.
Oh, Israel?
Yeah, Israel, right? So that's us. And so we're going to smash the statue, and then it's going to last forever. For as much as thou sawest that a stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Okay, so then what do you do if you're a king and what would you expect Nebuchadnezzar to do when he hears this whole prophecy? Saying that his kingdom is going to be destroyed and like the Jews are going to rule. Probably pretty mad.
He'd probably kill Daniel, no?
Yeah, probably kill Daniel, right?
Extreme guy.
Instead, what does he do? Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, okay, and commanded that they should offer an offering and sweet odors onto him. Okay, so he basically like makes Daniel into a avodah zarah. The king spoke to Daniel and said, of a truth that is, that your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou hast been able to reveal this secret. Okay, now presumably what moved him to do this is that if you've ever done any, I can only speak from the psychoanalytic model, but if you've ever done any dream analysis on yourself or had your dream analyzed, which is probably rare, when you hit upon the right meaning, you know that it's the right meaning. So probably the king was like, he got it, you know, like, I guess it's a quality of a prophetic dream that if you hear an interpretation, then it's like unquestionable. Even if the news is bad, you just know that it's true. Yeah, Yosef?
Maybe not the primary question, but like side question is like, why is such a Rasha getting a nevuah?
Okay, so it happens to be, and this is not what do you call? This is I left in I deleted all the mafarshim from my PowerPoint just for tonight, but I left in this Abravanel in case anyone asked that question. Okay, so the Abravanel says he says, hold on. Then Daniel told the king the truth of his dream, saying, the thoughts that come to you on your bed, etc. Don't be surprised, king, asking why God granted you this great information through prophecy, for there's no stinginess on high, and the prophecy is always flowing, right? So this is a principle of Nevuah. It's like the radio, the receiver is always there and radio waves are going. However, it will only fall on one who has prepared himself to receive it. Behold, your thoughts came to your mind while you lay on your bed to know what would happen at the end of all this, whether your kingdom would last in superiority through your offspring perpetually, or what history would bring. So according to the Abravanel, Daniel is telling the king that he got the nevuah because he was prepared to receive it, and God wants him to know what's going to happen. Okay. However, it says Daniel said all of this out of abundant humility. The Abravanel says that the prophetic message came to Nevuchadnezzar because of his preparation for it, in accordance with his thoughts and great mind. But this was not the case with the prophetic message that came to Daniel, which was not because of his preparation, but only because of Kadosh Baruch Hu did it in order to inform Nebuchadnezzar of his decrees. So this is a thing where there is this weird phenomenon that people can get nevuah. I call it spillover nevuah. I don't know how it works, but that's just the thing that, like, Paro was not on the level to get nevuah, but he got spillover nevuah in dream form because of Yosef, in order to bring Yosef up, and to save Egypt. Lavan got nevuah warning him not to harm Yaakov. Okay, so that was from Hashgacha on Yaakov. Something here is that, like, Nebuchadnezzar gets nevuah through a dream because of Daniel. How that works, that's beyond my pay grade. I don't really know. Okay, so
it's like practical nevuah. It's like just as like a pragmatic thing,
right? But it's still a question: how can it actually happen?
Right.
And so one more thing here, he says, however, the real reason for this, I already mentioned, namely in order to inform Nebuchadnezzar that he too would be destroyed, and that just as he did to the kings of Yehuda and Yerushalayim, so would be done to him and to Bavel, the capital of his kingdom. And this was in order that there should be a testimony to the nation regarding the fate of the kingdoms and the ultimate success of Israel. Okay, so we don't have time to go into analyzing the dream, but basically what you need to know is, and there's a lot of debate about like what the different elements of the dream represent. Oh, I didn't include the final chart, or did I? Hold on. Oh, I did. Yeah. So this is a quick summary, and you can look into this on your own. The statue is a mashal in the dream for human rulership. The gold head is Bavel, and this is all according to the Abravanel, by the way. Bavel is compared to a gold head because it ruled over everything. The heads rule over the body, and gold is like the most powerful. Silver, chest, and arms refer to Paras and Madai. So that's where the Purim story takes place. That's compared to silver, the Abravanel says, because it's worth less than gold, and it's because Persia and Media was weaker than Babel, which is historically true. Okay, I mean, it was a divided kingdom, or double kingdom itself. Bronze, belly, and thighs is Yavan, the Greek empire, and specifically Alexander the Great. And Abravanel says he was compared to bronze because bronze makes noise. I guess that's what they use for like symbols and stuff. And Alexander's reputation was heard around the world. Secondly, bronze doesn't rust, but it can break. So too, Alexander's empire didn't gradually weaken, it abruptly ended, right? So that's the weird thing about Alexander. He died young, and as soon as he died, the entire empire just fractured, okay? Iron legs and feet of iron and clay refers to Edom, that's the Roman Empire, compared to iron, which is the strongest metal, because Rome was stronger than the three previous kingdoms. And then iron and clay represent the Christians and Muslims who lived in the same lands and always were fighting, but never mixed, in the sense that you didn't have like mass conversions of like, or intermarriage from one to the other, or I guess intermarriage would be the thing. They didn't join into one people. The stone hewn out, but not by human hands, is the Melech HaMashiach, which will be brought about by Hashem, not by human power. It will strike the feet of the statue, which is that the Melech HaMashiach will come during Malchus Edom, right? That's hitting the feet. That's where we're in right now. The statue crumbles and is gone, which means that the Melech HaMashiach will annihilate every remnant of the four kingdoms. And then the stone becomes a mountain which fills the earth, is that Hashem's influence of Yedias Hashem will spread throughout the entire world through the Malchus of the Melech HaMashiach, which will last forever. Okay, so that is what Nebuchadnezzar saw in his dream. Okay, now in the next 10 minutes, we have to go through the facts of the story of the idol. Okay, so I apologize for rushing through this, but again, goal for tonight is to get the facts. The analysis will have to take place next time. Okay. So right after this, King Nebuchadnezzar made a statue of gold, 60 cubits high and 60 cubits wide, which he erected in the Dura Valley in the province of Babel. Okay, so he makes the statue from his dream. Okay, but instead of having gold, silver, bronze, and iron, he makes it entirely out of gold. Why would you think he would do that?
Because he wants his thing to last forever.
He wants his thing to last forever, no other kingdoms. Okay, so that's what he's trying to do. And he built it in the Dura Valley, which Chazal say was where Migdal Bavel, where they built their tower. Okay, and I remember when I taught this in 2017, and Trump had just gotten elected. Then I said that I pointed out that it was kind of like how Trump said, "Make America Great Again." That slogan came from Reagan, right? So he was piggybacking on the golden age of Republicans and like using their motto and like trying to make it like his own. So to hear Bavel, the golden age of Bavel was when they built that tower, but now he's like, I'm going to make a gold statue, and this time it's going to last. That's why he did it in the same location. Okay, then King Nebuchadnezzar issued a command to gather the rulers, the nobles, the governors, the judges, the treasurers, the advisors, the guards, and all the provincial officials to attend the dedication of the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had erected. Okay, so a big gathering of all the nobles. By the way, you're going to see here weird stylistic work. It repeats all the lists. So the rulers, the nobles, the governors, the judges, the treasurers, the advisors, the guards, and all the provincial officials gathered for the dedication of the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had erected and stood before the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had erected. This is reminiscent of like a high schooler who's like trying to max out the word count, okay. A proclamation was read aloud. So this is now the law. You are instructed, O peoples, nations, and tongues. The moment you hear the sound of the horn, the whistle, the tambourine, the drum, the cymbals, the flute, and all the other types of instruments, you shall fall down and bow to the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has erected. Whoever does not fall down and bow will immediately be thrown into a blazing fiery furnace. Okay, that's not something you want to happen. Therefore, the moment that the people heard the sound of the horn, the whistle, the tambourine, the drum, the cymbals, and all the other types of instruments, all the people, nations, and tongues fell down and worshipped the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had erected. That's the chait. Okay, that's the chait that the midrash is referring to. Everyone bowed down. Okay, except, hold on. Thereupon, at the very same time, some Chaldean men came forth and defamed the Jews. They exclaimed and said to the King Nebuchadnezzar, "May the king live forever. You, O king, issued a decree that every person who hears the sound of the horn, the whistle, the tambourine, the drums, the cymbals, the flute, and the other types of instruments is to fall and bow down to the golden statue. And whoever does not fall and bow down, that's a typo, is to be thrown into a fiery burning furnace. There are Jewish men of whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego," and that's in Hebrew, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Okay. "These men have not accepted your decree upon themselves, O king. Your God they do not worship, and to the golden statue that you set up, they do not bow down." Okay, so they're, very familiar, pulling a Mordecai, right? And this law that makes everyone bow down, and they're not doing it. Okay. Then King Nebuchadnezzar said in anger and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men were brought before the king. Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed and said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not worship my God and you do not bow down to the golden statue that I've set up? Now behold, you must be prepared when you hear the sound of the horn, the whistle, the tambourine, the drum, the cymbals, the flute, and all the other types of instruments to fall and bow down to the statue I have made. But if you do not bow down, you will immediately be thrown into a fiery burning furnace. And who is the God who can save you from my hands?" And they were like, I'm glad you asked. Okay. But the interesting just side point here is, why is he giving them another chance? So the reason why he's giving them another, like, why didn't he just like kill them? Answer is that these were his trusted advisors and these were Daniel's buddies. So they are valuable to him, but so he's giving them like another chance here. And in fact, if you are medoctic, like the Malbim, you'll notice that that the instructions say that when the horn, the whistle, the tambourine, the drum, the cymbals, and the flute, and all the types of instruments go, then they got to bow down. But when it describes what happens, it omits the flute. Okay, so like the Malbim has this theory that Nebuchadnezzar was like specifically omitting something, so technically they weren't in violation of the king's decree, so he could give them another chance. Okay, I don't know. That's the Malbim's theory. So anyway, so who is the God who can save you from my hand? So then they say this very like bold statement. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego responded and said to the king, "Nebuchadnezzar, we are not worried about replying to you about this matter. Behold, our God whom we worship is able to save us. He will rescue from the fiery burning furnace and from your hand, O king." Okay, so he's saying he will rescue us. Now, if you stop there, you'd be like, I thought we say ein somkin al anes. We don't rely on a miracle. True, because then they say, but if he does not save us, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not worship your God, and to the golden statue that you have set up, we shall not prostrate ourselves. So they're not saying that they're going to be saved. They're saying either we'll be saved or we won't, but either way, we're not going to bow down to your statue and worship your God. Okay, so what happens? Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury, and the form of his face became contorted at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He exclaimed and commanded his men to heat the furnace to 7 times more than it was normally heated. Then he commanded the strong men of his guard to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to throw them into the fiery burning furnace. Then these men were bound in their cloaks, their pants, their robes, and their other clothing, and were thrown into the fire burning furnace. Fun fact, I think this is the first time the word pants is used in Tanakh. Okay, got pants in Tanakh. You saw it here first. Thereupon, because of the king's urgent command and because the furnace was so overheated, those men who carried up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were killed by a flare of fire. So it was so hot that it burned the guys who were like putting them into the fire. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell bound into the fiery burning furnace. Okay, now comes the awesome part. Then King Nebuchadnezzar, bewildered, stood up in haste. He exclaimed to his ministers and said, "Did we not throw 3 bound men into the fire?" They replied and said to the king, "True, O king." He exclaimed and said, "Behold, I see 4 unbound men walking in the fire, and there is no wound on them, and the appearance of the 4th one is like an angel's." Okay, so he sees like this 4th guy walking around, which, by the way, if you watch all the Christian videos, then who do they say that guy is? It's Jesus. Okay, they make that into Jesus. Okay, then Nebuchadnezzar approached the opening of the fiery burning furnace. He exclaimed and said, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the supreme God, step out and come here." Thereupon Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire. The rulers, the nobles, the governors, and the ministers of the king assembled and saw these men over whose bodies the fire had no effect, the hair of whose head was not singed, whose cloaks were unaltered, and who had not absorbed the smell of fire. Okay, so in other words, not burned at all. And the Gemara goes into this and said, it tries to identify which angel was protecting them. So they thought it was Yorkami, who is the angel of hail, or the prince of hail, and say, no, it was really Gabriel, because he can negate fire. Nebuchadnezzar exclaimed and said, "Blessed is the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel and saved his servants, who relied in him and disobeyed the king's order and offered their bodies in order to not worship or prostrate themselves to any other god than their God." So he's now praising the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And now he makes another violent Nebuchadnezzar decree. "I issue a decree that any people, nation, or language who will speak inappropriately about the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be cut to pieces, and his house will be turned into a dunghill, for there's no God able to rescue, other God able to rescue in this manner." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Bavel. Okay, and that's the end of the story. Okay, so that is our midrash, or sorry, that is our psukim here. So I have to go in like a minute. Our task is to try to answer what was that chait, which, by the way, in terms of screen time, like the chait itself gets very, very little like puzzle space. You know, it's mostly about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So like the chait is not highlighted, and then the midrash says that that's the whole reason for the entirety of Megilah Esther. You know, so we have to answer these questions, but we'll hopefully all think about it, and hopefully we'll have answers by next time, by Wednesday. Okay.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Who are the Chaldeans?
Those Chaldeans is just another word for Babylonians. And sometimes Chaldeans means like the astrologers.
Gotcha. Okay, fine.
Yep. Okay.
Have a good night.
Yeah. Have a good night. Thanks for coming. Bye. See ya.